shadows, gather round, and let old Mr. Rotten Trees share a spine-tingling yarn with you. Picture this, the crooked ghost lady of shadows. A spookier than thou wraith with limbs that are about as straight as a pretzel and a face only a mother ghost could love. She's not your typical friendly ghost, oh no. She's got a real knack for making your hair stand on end, and she's not afraid to show it. She is a wraith-like specter. A twisted manifestation of darkness and malevolence. Her limbs contorted, her face disfigured. She drifts through the night, seeking souls to torment. Beware, for should you cross her path, her cruel intentions may befall you, and you shall know the true meaning of fear. Heed my words. For in the darkest corners of our world, the crooked ghost lady of shadows awaits.
The Crooked Ghost Lady of Shadows. The wind howled through the desolate streets of Blackwood Manor, carrying with it a bone-chilling promise of terror. It was a house long forgotten by the townsfolk, a looming shadow in the heart of the small, decaying town. On this fateful night, a lone teenager named Lily dared to step inside, drawn by the legends of a crooked lady ghost said to haunt its haunted halls. Blackwood Manor had been abandoned for decades, left to rot and decay like the very souls that once dwelled within its walls. Overgrown ivy choked the once grand facade, and shattered windows gaped like empty sockets. Rumors of malevolent spirits and restless souls had driven the townsfolk away, leaving the mansion to fester in isolation. But Lily, a bold and adventurous soul, couldn't resist the lure of the supernatural. As she stepped over the threshold, a palpable sense of dread washed over her. The air inside the mansion was heavy, thick with the weight of sorrow and anguish. Her flashlight cast eerie, dancing shadows on the peeling wallpaper, revealing ancient portraits of stern-looking men and delicate women who had long since become forgotten memories. The grand foyer was dimly lit, and the echoes of her footsteps seemed to bounce off the walls in a haunting symphony. It was as if the very walls held secrets, eager to whisper their tales to anyone willing to listen. Lily's heart raced as she ventured further, guided only by the faint glow of her flashlight. Up a creaking staircase, she ascended, her steps tentative yet filled with determination. Each floor she explored only deepened the sense of unease that gnawed at her insides. The story she'd heard about the crooked lady ghost grew ever more vivid in her mind. A wraith-like figure with twisted limbs, a disfigured face, and a penchant for cruelty. As Lily reached the third floor, she could hear a soft scratching sound, almost like nails against wood. It was a ghostly whisper in the silent house, sending shivers down her spine. She followed the sound, turning a corner into a long, dark hallway. There, at the far end of the corridor, stood the crooked lady. She was draped in tattered, rotting lace, and her long, tangled hair hung like curtains to conceal her face. Lily's breath caught in her throat as the ghostly figure began to emit a low, guttural moan that sent icy tendrils crawling up her spine. The ghost moved with a jerky, unnatural gait, her crooked limbs contorting grotesquely as she approached. Each step sent the floorboards creaking, and the shadows seemed to come alive, writhing and dancing in her wake. Lily tried to back away, but her legs felt like lead, and she could only watch in horror as the crooked lady drew closer. With trembling hands, Lily managed to switch off her flashlight, plunging the hallway into total darkness. She hoped that hiding in the shadows might spare her from the ghost's malevolence. But it was not to be. In the inky blackness, the crooked lady's presence became more pronounced. The air grew colder, and the scratching sound grew louder, closer. It was as if the ghost's very essence was encircling her, suffocating her. Then, a disembodied voice, cold and raspy, whispered in Lily's ear, "You should not have come here, child." It was a voice that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, and it filled her with a paralyzing fear. Lily felt an invisible hand grip her shoulder, and she could sense the crooked lady's presence right beside her, though she couldn't see her. The ghost's twisted, gnarled finger pointed directly at her. its bony tip almost touching her trembling cheek. The crooked lady let out a chilling, otherworldly shriek that pierced the darkness. It was a sound of pure torment, a cry from the depths of a tortured soul. Lily's heart pounded in her chest, and she felt a cold breath on her face, as if the ghost were breathing its icy despair into her very being. In that moment, Lily could feel the malevolence of the crooked lady engulfing her, a suffocating darkness that threatened to consume her entirely. She knew she had to escape, to flee the accursed mansion and the vengeful spirit that haunted it. But her legs remained paralyzed, and the ghost's cold, skeletal hand continued to grip her shoulder, its long, twisted nails digging into her flesh. The crooked lady's voice filled the air once more, a sinister whisper that seemed to come from all directions. "You will never leave this place, child. You will become one with the shadows, a tortured soul trapped in eternal darkness." Panic surged through Lily's veins, and she fought with all her might to break free from the ghost's icy grip. With a sudden burst of strength, she wrenched herself away, stumbling blindly through the dark hallway. The crooked lady's haunting wails echoed after her, growing fainter as she fled. Lily finally burst out of the mansion's front door, gasping for breath as the night air filled her lungs. She didn't look back, for fear that she might see the crooked lady lurking in the shadows. She ran through the overgrown garden, through the desolate streets of Blackwood Manor, and didn't stop until she reached the safety of the town's flickering streetlights. As she caught her breath, Lily knew she had narrowly escaped the clutches of a malevolent force beyond comprehension. The legends were true, and Blackwood Manor was a place of unspeakable horror, where the crooked lady of shadows reigned supreme. But she also knew that she had glimpsed something far more terrifying than any ghost, the darkness that lurked within the human heart, the darkness that could drive a soul to become a vengeful spirit, trapped in a never-ending nightmare of torment and despair. And so, as the wind continued to howl through the streets of Blackwood Manor, Lily vowed never to return to that accursed place, for she had seen the crooked lady of shadows, and the memory of that night would haunt her for the rest of her days.